Supermassive by Image Comics. So before I get into the story summary breakdown and review, I'm going to talk a little bit about this issue. If you guys just want the summary, I'll put chapters if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching it somewhere else, I'll put a time code where you guys can skip to. But yeah, so this isn't a issue 1 of a new ongoing series or an issue 1 of a mini-series. This is just a one-shot. It is a extra length one-shot, hence the name Supermassive. And this is a crossover between Radiant Black, Inferno Girl Red, and Rogue Sun. So I've heard of Inferno Girl Red just because I've seen the advertisement for the Kickstarter campaign at the end of a few of the Radiant Black issues. As far as I know, the campaign is still ongoing. I guess we are not supposed to really know anything about Inferno Girl Red except whatever you read from the Kickstarter campaign. And this is also going to be the first appearance of Rogue Sun. So Rogue Sun is going to have his own series. It was supposed to come out this month, but I guess Supermassive was late. It got pushed back. So because of that, Rogue Sun also got pushed back till March. So yeah, this is a crossover between Radiant Black, who we already know, and then two superheroes who we don't know. And I'll say this from the get-go, I feel like this issue could have been better when it comes to introducing these characters. I mean, it does give you enough so you can kind of glean how they are like, but I wish there was a little bit more. Obviously, I know that they're not going to give you their entire origin story or everything like that, because that's going to be left for their own series. But I wish we had a bit more, especially when it comes to Inferno Girl Red, because I have no idea what her whole thing is. At first, I thought she might have been an alien reading this. Not just because of her appearance, but also because there's a scene later on where they're leaving a Waffle House. And she asks not in a sarcastic way, but completely serious, so is this house made out of waffles? So I'm like, all right, this girl's super, super naive. Is she like an alien? Is she like Starfire? Like, I don't want to say she's dumb, but is she supposed to be like Starfire, where she comes from like an alien world and she's not used to Earth culture and stuff like that, so she takes everything kind of literal. So when she sees a Waffle House, she automatically assumes that the house is made out of waffles. Is that what her thing is? But according to the Kickstarter campaign, there's nothing whatsoever about her being a alien. It's just basically that she grows up with her mom. She goes from city to city because of, I guess, her mom. So because of that, she is kind of like not a social outcast, but she doesn't really have many friends. Like, it's not that she can't make friends easily, but the few friends she has, she immediately loses them because she has to move on to the next city. And then eventually at some point, their city gets taken over by this army of demons from an ancient cult, and she gets this magical dragon bracelet that gives her powers to become Inferno Girl Red and fight back against these demons. So I gathered all that from the Kickstarter. So I get more information about her from the Kickstarter than I do from this giant crossover event introducing her. So I was like, that's kind of not all that great. Plus, I believe the markings on her face is actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but according to the Kickstarter pictures, it looks like she also has them on her hands and her knee, which leads me to believe that she has vitiligo, which is an actual skin condition which basically causes your skin to lose pigment cells. And so like people with dark skin, they'll actually get white skin in certain places of their body because of this condition. So I'm assuming that's what she has. But if I hadn't have read the Kickstarter, I would have just assumed she was an alien, just based off her personality and because of the marking on her face. You don't really see characters with that skin condition in comics. So I actually think that it's pretty cool that they're actually doing that. It gives her like a really unique look and design. So I'm all for that. Enough talk. I can discuss more about the characters as we go through the breakdown. So let's just do the summary breakdown. So yeah, we start off in the wilderness where we see Inferno Girl Red appear. She seems to appear out of this like red crystal dimension gap, and it looks like one of the demons has followed with her. Either the demon has followed her or she's following the demon, and it takes off. And she goes to fight it, but it basically rockets away. And then we cut to some other dude. He's a human with these like technological gears, and he gets attacked by the demon and killed. And I believe the demon steals his pack. So then we cut to Rogue's son. Rogue's son is in New Orleans, and he's fighting this, looks like a demon. It's Charon. So I'm assuming it's Charon from the River Styx, because there even is a point where he's talking about like the river and all the souls upon it are mine. So I'm assuming this is Charon from the River Styx. Yeah, he basically stops him, and then we see him without his helmet on, and he's talking to Jules. I'm assuming Jules is maybe his girlfriend, because he's talking about, you know, grabbing a bottle of wine and fight home and all this stuff. And she responds, you know, way ahead of you, hero. So I'm assuming it's his girlfriend who is aware of him being a hero. Yeah, he puts on his helmet. He rockets off because he gets a message from somewhere. There's some kind of danger. And then that's when we cut to the characters that we actually know. Marshall, Nathan, and Nathan's girlfriend. So they're all in the theaters watching a movie. Marshall is like a few rows ahead, and him and Nathan are just shooting texts back and forth. I'm not sure when this is supposed to take place. I'm assuming this just takes place immediately after Nathan has awoken from his coma and stuff. So apparently they're good, I guess. They're watching a sci-fi movie, and Nathan's texting him like, you know, was it like that? Because in the previous issue, Radiant Pink teleported herself and Marshall into space, and Marshall's like, nah, like the ships were way cooler, they were pulsing, blah blah blah. And basically he's kind of bantering about like all the cool stuff he was able to witness and experience since becoming the Radiant Black. So eventually he gets a text from his robot buddy. I don't know if we've ever gotten a name from these things yet, but basically informs him that there's some kind of danger, so he has to leave. So then we cut to Inferno Girl Red. I'm not sure I really like that name. You could have just stuck with Inferno Red. You don't need to throw in the girl in there. That'd be kind of like, I don't know, Power Ranger Man Green. Like it's just, you know, or instead of Green Ranger, it's Green Man Ranger. Like you don't really need to throw in the girl in there. We know it's a girl. You could have just gone with Inferno Red. That would be a cool name. But anyways, Inferno Girl Red's she's in the snow in the wilderness, and then Rogue's son shows up, and she kind of just introduces herself. She's like, you know, I'm Inferno Girl Red. I'm new to this universe. I don't like, what exactly are you? Are you like a goth flavored superhero? Are you a night themed demon? And he basically says, like, I'm the one who will send, you know, people back where they come from. So I can send you back where you came from, or I can take you into custody because you're not allowed to be here. And she basically explains, like, don't get snappy. I want to go back, but first there's a demon that I need to track down. He escaped from my world into here. I need to grab him and bring him back into my world. And yeah, I don't want any problems with you. And he basically says, like, you go. I can send you back to your world, and I'll take care of the demon. And she's like, no, we don't have enough time for this. And it looks like Rogue's son is about to launch a fight against Inferno Girl Red when all of a sudden they both freeze. It's Marshall. Marshall shows up. He stops both of them. He's like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, he has like a little fourth wall breaking here where he's like, I can't believe you started the superhero crossover without me. But yeah, he's like, you know, I got gravity powers. Pretty cool, right? Like, what are you guys? Like, are you some kind of like weird space thing? Inferno Girl Red explains herself, like, hey, I'm from another dimension. You don't need to worry about that. And Marshall kind of banters with her, and then, you know, we basically get Rogue's son. Rogue's son is the serious one in the group. Marshall is the comic relief, and I guess you can say that Inferno Girl Red is kind of the straight character in the bunch. Straight, not in the sexual way, but in the comedic way, as in you have your straight character and then you have your comic relief character, and they play off each other. But they kind of introduce themselves, they introduce their names. Basically, Rogue's son talks about like interdimensional forces are constantly testing the boundaries of this realm, searching for the slightest gap. Because you're here, it increases the possibility of a breach. So we got to get you the hell back home, so we don't have these breaches where these interdimensional forces can force their way into our world. So I'm assuming also because of that Marshall and Rogue's son share the same universe. So Inferno Girl Red is the only one who's not part of this universe. She basically explains that she can't go back home yet because there's this demon that came from her world and she needs to bring it back to her world before she can go. And that's when they hear this war, and then they see this like zombie creature. It's the dude who had the pack earlier and got attacked. And then he basically morphs into the demon that came through the portal with Inferno Girl Red. And we get a fight between the three characters, and they're using their powers against this thing. And Marshall is basically telling them, no, like, stop attacking it. This thing is a tech vampire. And what happens is when they're shooting their powers at it, the thing is absorbing their powers. And it absorbs it to the point where it actually steals their powers. And as it's stealing their powers, Marshall gets a vision of basically Armageddon. Like the world's destroyed and on fire. There's a bunch of superheroes watching from space as the world burns. There are no other Radiants. It looks like it's just him. But it actually looks like maybe it's a common. I'm assuming maybe my theory is maybe it's all the Radiants combined together to form this, because this is a color we haven't seen before, and the build looks a bit different. And Inferno Girl Red gets visions of somebody being attacked by what looks like ghost demon lobsters. And she sees what I'm assuming is Inferno Girl Blue and Green. And then Rogue Sun sees a casket with Marcus Randolph Bell, husband, father. I'm assuming this is his father, and he's just standing over the coffin. So I really don't. Their visions mean nothing to me because I know nothing about these characters. So yeah, they all pass out. They realize that they don't have their powers anymore, so now they're just in their human forms, and they try to power up, but nothing happens. So then they're like, all right, well, we got to track this thing down so we can get our powers back so that we can send you back home along with the demon. So they rent out a car and they do a road trip. And this is when we get, a little bit of their personalities and stuff. Like I said before, Inferno Girl Red comes off as really young and naive, which is what gave me the impression that she was basically like Starfire, where her world is not like Earth. So her culture is not like Earth, and so because she's on Earth, like things are new to her. But apparently she knows what a car is and stuff like that. It's only the Waffle House that she assumes is made out of waffles. So I really don't get what the hell her shtick is. Is she an alien? Is she from an alternate Earth? Where exactly is she from? The Kickstarter doesn't really explain much. And she doesn't really explain much. This issue doesn't really explain much. As for Rogue Sun, we get a little bit of a talk between Marshall and Rogue Sun, because Rogue Sun has been at the superhero thing for a long while, and Marshall's new to it. So Marshall kind of, asks him, like, does it ever get easy? Like, do you have any tips? Like, I feel like every time when I try to become a superhero, like, I almost seem to make things worse. But, I'm trying. Like, is there anything, like, any advice you can impart on me that might be able to help me? And during this talk, we learned that Rogue Sun had a dad who was the previous Rogue Sun before him. And Rogue Sun was a good superhero, but a crappy dad. And by crappy dad, I mean he was an alcoholic who used to beat his family. And he basically tells Marshall, if a loser like that, a loser who constantly drinks and beats his own family, is able to save the day and become a hero, then you should have no problem. You just keep at it. So I was like, okay, that's a nice touching moment between the two of them. This advice Marshall can use going forward. It gives us a little bit of a history on this character. I still really don't know much about him. Other than the fact that Rogue Sun is apparently like a legacy character, not in the real world, in our world, but in this universe. It's a legacy character whose powers are passed down, I'm assuming, between family members, because his dad before him was the previous Rogue Sun. And yeah, we get a bit of who his dad was. Apparently he has daddy issues, because now he's inheriting the legacy of the man who used to drink and beat the crap out of his mom. So yeah, there's a little bit of drama there. But I don't know what these powers are. I don't really know much. And I get it. you're going to be saving some of this for the Rogue Sun series. I don't know. I kind of wish I had a little bit more to go off, because I don't really know what their powers are other than Marshall's, because obviously I've been reading Radiant Black, but I haven't been reading anything else. Like, I haven't been reading Inferno Girl Red or Rogue Sun because those haven't come out yet. But yeah, we get basically some bonding moments on this road trip till eventually they show up somewhere in North Dakota where they see the giant demon, and has grown even taller thanks to the powers that it absorbed from our heroes. And eventually Marshall comes up with a plan to just kind of straight up attack it and basically create a diversion. As it's busy focusing on them, Inferno Girl Red will pull at the pack on its back, because the pack on its back is what has their powers. And here's another reason why I think maybe she is an alien, is because she's able to have the strength without her powers to grab the pack on this demon and yank him down to the floor, like really hard, to the point where like it kind of busts his head and he's bleeding. So it looks like she has super strength even when she doesn't have the powers. So I'm assuming she's an alien. I have no idea, and this comic doesn't explain anything to me about what her history is. But eventually she smacks the pack open. There's more, but I really don't want to like spoil in this. But you can assume what's going to happen. I mean, this is a one-shot. They're not going to leave you on a cliffhanger. So, yeah, you guys can already figure it out for yourself. I will say, again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, like, it's a good issue. It's a fun issue. Nicely drawn, interesting coloring for certain moments. I don't have any complaints about that. The complaints come with the writing. And it's not like the storytelling or anything like that. It's just when it comes to Inferno Girl Red and Rogue Sun, I don't really know who they are. And this helps me a little bit. Like, this issue helps a tiny bit, but I got more info on Inferno Girl Red by reading her Kickstarter page than I did from this issue. And I feel like that's a terrible idea, because I don't know, most people maybe might not be reading her Kickstarter page. Most people are probably going to be introduced to her through this issue. So I think you should do a better job of introducing her character through this. From just this issue, all I know is she has powers and she fights demons, and she may or may not be an alien. That's all I get from her. I get more from reading her Kickstarter page. So I wish they had put some of the Kickstarter page info into here. Like, the thing is, like, you can actually straight up put her Kickstarter page info and find a way to write it into here so that it makes sense without giving everything away, because the Kickstarter page does not give anything away other than, like I said, it's all we get is that she grows up in Apex City. She moves from city to city because of her mom. She doesn't really have much friends because she's constantly moving. Eventually she lands in Apex City, where some demons from an ancient cult, an army of demons, overtake her home. She gets this magical bracelet that gives her these powers, and the powers are powered by her belief. So she needs to believe, I guess, in the powers for them to work. But this girl, her name is Cassia, by the way. She's a pragmatic girl. She's like a Spock character. She uses logic. So to have to rely on faith and belief and stuff is really tough for her, because that's not how she is. It's like, okay, that sounds interesting. Like, but all that is gleaned from the Kickstarter page. None of that whatsoever is in this comic. And as for Rogue Sun, I get a bit about him. I get apparently he takes care of the dimensional gap, or is he some kind of like Earth space cop? Basically, he has these powers. I don't know what the powers are. I mean, his name is Rogue Sun, and he appears to have, his armor and stuff is kind of on fire at times. It's like there's flames and things. Like, what are his powers exactly? I don't know. And I know that he grew up in a rough home, and he has issues with his dad, and those issues aren't helped by the fact that he's inheriting his dad's powers. So he's now basically walking in the shadows of his dad, and he's trying not to be his dad. Like, he's trying to be a better person, a better hero than his dad. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I would have liked a little bit more detail on him, but I guess that's enough, I guess. But yeah, Inferno Girl Red, she's the one where I wanted to know more, because we don't really get more. As I said before, and I'm kind of repeating myself, but we get more from her Kickstarter page than we do in this entire issue. I would have liked more. This is a crossover event where 2 out of the 3 characters, we have no idea who they are because they've never had their own comics haven't been released yet. So that was a really interesting thing to do. Usually with crossovers, you do it with already established characters. But here, it's like one character is established and the others haven't been introduced to the public yet. Like, we have no idea who they are. And I feel like this issue doesn't really... It could have done a better job of introducing who these characters are. So I guess explaining this review, my thoughts on the Rogue Sun character kind of changed a little bit. Because, yeah, thinking back, we do get some information on him. Not so much on his powers or what exactly he does. Just more on his character and his backstory with his family. INFERNO Girl Red, I have no idea who she is. Like, her Kickstarter page makes me more interested in her than this comic did, which is a shame. Because like I said, the Kickstarter page makes her seem like an interesting character, and it makes it seem like her series is going to be pretty interesting to read. This comic didn't really sell that to me. I mean, she's fine in the comic, but she could have been a lot better, if that makes any sense to you guys. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Supermassive. Like I said, it seems like I'm critiquing it a lot, but I did enjoy the issue. It was a good issue. If you're a fan of Radiant Black, read it. I especially like Marshall in this. He stays in character, but he's not just a complete loser who screws up everything. So I like the fact that he's not, just tagging along for the ride. Because that's another problem with crossovers, is usually you will have like one character made out to be a lot better than another character. Yeah, this crossover did a good job of not having any one person one up anyone else. Like, everyone comes across as equals, which is good. This issue made me even more... I can cement more my belief that Marshall needs to remain as the Radiant Black, and Nathan does not need to get his powers back. Keep him as the sidekick, because to me, Marshall just makes a better Radiant. A more interesting Radiant, I should say. Not a better Radiant, but a more interesting Radiant. This is a good issue. It's a good issue. It's a fun issue. If you like Radiant Black, read it. If you're interested in Rogue Sun and INFERNO Girl Red, read it. I will just say my nitpick of it is that I wish we had more information on the two other characters. Especially since these are two other characters that nobody has seen yet other than advertisements, because their series hasn't been released yet. This is the first time that we're seeing these characters as an actual published comic. So because of that, I would have liked if this issue did a better job of introducing these characters. But other than that, good issue. Recommend it. Go check it out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you next time. Take care, everybody. Later. So what'd you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that bell for a notification. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far. And I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see. And I hope to see you guys next time. Later.